Okay. Okay, hi everybody. It's Michelle from the Bead Gallery, and today I'm going to show you how to make a really simple leaf component out of sterling silver wire. And I will be using some sterling silver wire and tools, but we'll wait a few seconds for people to come join us on this live. Thanks for joining us if you're already here. I can't wait to show you this really fun component. I love wire, and I really like the way that you can make your own components, your own shapes, your own findings. It's really liberating to be able to make something out of a straight piece of wire. Okay, so let's take a look at the screen. Anybody here? Okay. I'll give you a few more seconds to come join us, and then I will get started with the real wire bending. Okay? What's that? Oh, hello. Hello, Joy. Hi, Amy. Thanks for joining me today. Okay. I guess we'll just get started, and everybody can catch up as I go. I'll try to work a little bit slow. It's really fast though, so you know. Okay, and I'm going to make a leaf component out of 16 gauge wire today, and if there's time I'm going to start to embellish it with some beads and some finer gauge wire. Let's see how far I get with that. Okay, so we're going to be starting with a 16 gauge sterling silver wire. This is soft. We want it to be dead soft so I can shape it easily. I have 6 inches. And the first tools I'm going to work with are a wrap and tap plier. This is a 6-step wrap and tap. Okay. And I'm going to use a chain nose plier. There we go. I will probably end up using my regular round nose plier too at some certain point. We'll see. I have a flat nose plier here. And I have my Lindstrom flush cutter. This will cut up to 16 gauge wire, so it is pretty essential for heavier gauge wire. Okay, so those are the tools I'm going to start with. Okay, so I have my 6-inch piece of wire here. The first thing I'm going to do is get a Sharpie and mark the midpoint. So the middle of 6 inches is, of course, 3 inches. So I'm going to move over to the close-up view, and then we shall see what I'm doing. Okay, there we go. Let's go here. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is measure and mark at 3 inches. And it's just going to be kind of approximate. Don't worry if the wire curves. Let's do it this way. Eyeball it. So this is 3 inches. I'm going to mark it with a Sharpie. I just put a little dot where it is 3 inches, or the middle of the wire. Okay. Then I'm going to get my 6-step wrap and tap, and I'm going to make a medium-sized loop. So I'm going to put it on the step number 3 of my 6-step wrap and tap. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab the very tip of the wire. Oh wait, mistake. You have to make sure that the wire is flush cut first. It's a little pointy on this side. So I'm going to get my flush cutter and just trim it flush like that. So you have a nice clean end. Then I'm going to get my 6-step wrap and tap. Grab the very end of the wire like this. Pinch pretty hard and roll my plier while pressing against the wire with my left thumb. Then I'm going to reposition the plier and roll some more until I have a loop. So it's done in sort of small motions, very gradual. Okay, and I have my loop here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a curve in the wire close to the middle. Let's see. I'm going to borrow my nylon hammer and just curve the wire around it. So just grab it like this and push it around like that. Okay, if I had had a larger wrap and tap here handy, I would have used that. But anything sort of round just to curve it at the bottom, that's cool. Okay. All right. So I have a curve in the middle of my wire, like this. You can use pretty much any tool you have handy. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend the end of the wire down at a right angle so it is perpendicular to the loop that I made. So there's this plane of the wire. I'm going to just grab about the width of my flat nose plier here. And I'm going to just bend a right angle here. And that is what we're going to hook into the loop that I made earlier. Then I'm going to flip it so the hook is pointing upwards towards the sky. I'm going to get my chain nose plier and pull this hook over and around to kind of close my loop, like so. Okay, and you want to sort of squeeze it so the loop is shut and nothing comes out. So now you should have a teardrop shape. And you can actually just use this piece like this if you wanted to. It's kind of cute. You can hang things in there. Okay, so, but we're making a leaf today. So, to make the point of the leaf, you see this mark that I made earlier? This is where I'm going to bend the point of the leaf. So I'm going to get my flat nose plier, like this. And notice I'm working perpendicular, with my pliers perpendicular to the plane of the piece. Okay, so I'm not grabbing the wire like this. I'm grabbing it so that it's inside the hoop like this. And it's like at a 90-degree angle, like that. And so the left edge of my plier is touching my dot, and I'm going to bend the wire against that left edge of my plier. So it makes an angle at the dot. That's what we're aiming for, okay? So let's do this. Boom. Okay, so you just press against the edge of the plier like this, and it makes a sharp angle. Okay, so now it's getting a little more leaf-like. And if you want, you can make a little curve in the leaf like this to give it a little bit of flair. Okay. All right. How's everybody enjoying my demo so far? I hope you're finding it fun, and I hope you think that it's easy to do. I hope I'm making it look easy to do, you know. Okay, and if you want, you can sort of fatten your leaf by just bending it with your fingers gently, like this. Again, this is 16 gauge soft wire. I chose 16 gauge for this project because you see how big my leaf is? Okay, you don't want to make that size of a piece with a very thin wire. It's going to lose its shape easily. It can get dented, pulled out of shape easily. So 16 gauge is a good gauge if you're going to start with 6 inches, 5 to 6 inches of wire. Okay, and your shape's going to be about this big. Okay, so I'm pretty much happy with the shape of my leaf. You can add more dents to it if you wanted to, but I kind of like it just having this little fat section right here. Okay. And you know, your best tools are your fingers. So you can use it to give a little bit more definition, or just smooth the wire like this and make your curve nice, like that. Okay. So once I'm satisfied with the shape of my leaf, I'm going to hammer it. What that does is it gives strength to the shape because it hardens the wire. And I'm also going to flatten it a little bit so we get a bit of contour to the wire. Okay, so that was my pliers in action. Now I'm ready to use a hammer and bench block. So here's my bench block. This is a surface that I'm going to be hammering on. It is steel with a rubber base, so it kind of deadens the sound just a little, and it also keeps it nice and steady. The first hammer I'm going to use is my chasing hammer here. And I want to kind of hammer it so it's a little bit thinner on the top and the bottom of the leaf and a little bit wider on the curve. That's just a look that I like. If you want to hammer it everywhere, please feel free. The more you hammer it, the harder your piece will get. But if you're using a metal hammer, the more you hammer it, the flatter your wire will get. Okay? And if you make your wire too flat, you can sort of make it weak. Like you can flatten it so it looks like tin foil, and at that point you flattened it too much, which is not a good thing, and then your shape's integrity has been compromised a little bit. So let us not over hammer our leaf. Okay, I'm going to just sort of squeeze it like this and hammer lightly. Where you want to flatten the wire more, you hit it a little bit harder and a little bit longer. Like this. And then lighten up when you get to the tip. Okay. So can you see my wire is a little bit flatter? It's very shiny. And it's a lot harder now. Let me hit it some more. Okay. Then I'm going to hammer this edge of the leaf. But I don't want it to be so wide. I'm just going to try to keep it a little bit even, flatten it just a little bit, and maybe get a little bit wider near the bottom. Oh, I like that. Okay, so now I have my hammered leaf. You can hammer it more if you want. If I want a little bit more texture, I can use the ball side of my chasing hammer. Why don't we do that? And when you're texturing the wire, you don't have to hit it as hard as when you are flattening it. So it's just lighter tapping is sufficient. And I am choking up on my hammer, so I'm holding the hammer very close to the head, like this, not far away. And what that does is it gives you better control and better accuracy over where you're hitting. So if you hold way back here, you can hit very hard because of the lever kind of action that's going on. But if you want accuracy and not to hit it so hard, choke up on the hammer like this, and then you'll be able to just tap it lightly without missing. Well, without missing as much. Okay. What you don't want to do is hammer the piece where this hook is. So you don't want to lay it on the block and hit the hook section, because that sort of weakens it, and then it'll kind of make it go offline and open up a little bit. So just avoid hitting this area here where it's doubled the wire. So I'm keeping it off the bench block. There we go. And then we can hammer the loop section just a little bit. I like to switch it up and not use such a large hammer for this size. So I'm going to use a smaller baby chasing hammer. This is the Fretz Maker's baby chasing hammer. It is one of my favorite ones to use. I use it at home all the time, because I tend to make a little bit smaller pieces than this. This one's kind of big for me. But I like to be very accurate in where I'm hitting. And so when you use a hammer with a very small face like this, you can really get in there and hammer very accurately. You can hammer accurately because you can see where you're hitting, which is the name of the game. Okay. All right. Oh. All right. Let's see if we have any questions. Oh, no questions yet? Anybody? Anybody? Okay, so when you hammer metal with a metal hammer, you tend to stretch the piece, because the piece will start to flatten and the metal will start to spread. So sometimes your shapes will open up just a little. So notice that, I don't know if you can see it, but my loop is opening up over here. There's a space, because when you hammer wire, you make the shape bigger, it stretches out, you move the metal, basically. So you'll have to adjust your shape a little bit after you're done hammering. Okay. So if we want to close the loop, I'm just going to use my flat nose plier and wiggle that loop shut, and maybe just give it a teeny squeeze, a very teeny squeeze. Here we go. I want to keep this loop open, like in terms of not filling it up with lots of wire or anything, because I want to use that as a place to hang my pendant. Okay, so we'll just have that. I'm kind of digging this. We're good here. Okay. So here's my leaf component that I made with 16 gauge wire. And since we have some time, I'm going to start to decorate this with some beads and wire. Okay. All right. However, if you wanted to harden your piece a little bit more, but you were happy with the texture, I forgot to tell you, you can use your nylon hammer here to hit your piece and hammer it without flattening the metal. Okay. When you use plastic hammers like this, or rawhide or something that's soft, you won't flatten the metal, because the thing you're hitting it with is softer than the silver that you are hitting, so it can't spread it out. All it does is it strengthens the wire and the shape, because it work hardens the wire. Okay. So if it got all wonky when you were messing around with it, or if it got all wonky when you were hammering it, you can flatten your leaf back to a nice shape by hitting it with the plastic hammer. Okay, I'm going to move that. All right, here we go. So this is a leaf. I'm going to switch back to the front camera for a little bit and talk. And then I'll see what kind of decorating we can get done in the little time that we have left. Okay, hold on. Here it is. Okay, so here's my leaf shape. And it's a very big open space. Very big negative space here. Sometimes people like that because you can just make really big hoop earrings like this. You just hook that right onto an ear wire and then you'll have very nice, very clean and modern looking just plain silver earrings. So you could do that. Okay. You could also just hang it as a pendant. You could probably like hang, like you make several of these and just attach it to chain so it overlaps and then it looks like fringe. That would be really cool, especially if you make it in different sizes. So all you have to do is vary the lengths of your starting pieces of wire. You'll always mark the middle. So if you use 4 inches of wire, you're going to mark the 2 inch in the middle and then make your shape. Okay, and then you can do like a fringe kind of collar with lots of leaves hanging from it. I think that would look really cool. But because we're a bead store and we love beads, I'm going to see if I can embellish my leaf with some beads. So we shall see if this will work or not. I haven't really done this before. So let's switch back to the small screen here. Let's see. Okay. All right. So I'm thinking I want to try this maybe tree of life type of thing. Oh, somebody asked what other gauges of wire would be good to work in. It's a very good question. Okay, now it really depends on the size of your piece because wire shapes get weaker the bigger they get generally. So if you made the same shape in the same size out of 22 gauge wire, that would just crumple. You could just crumple it with your hands. So you wouldn't want to choose 22 gauge wire for something this large, obviously. Okay. You would probably, like I said, minimum for something this large, you would use 16 gauge like I have here. You can even use 14 gauge wire for something this big. The smaller you get, the thinner wire you can use. It gets easier to work with, and also you don't compromise the integrity of the shape as much when they're smaller. So if you were to make like really itty bitty leaves, like say maybe your leaf ended up being like 1/2 inch, like we're talking really tiny, then you can maybe consider using 22 gauge wire. I probably wouldn't, but I bet you could make some really, really cute teeny leaf components out of 22 gauge wire as long as you hammer it so that it's hardened, but not too much because 22 gauge wire hammers really thin really fast, so you don't want to over hammer it. And then the larger you get, the thicker wire you want to use. So you can, I would say, safely, you can start from 20 gauge all the way up to 14 or 12 if you want to make some really chunky pieces. Okay? 22 I would only reserve for like the most microscopic leaves ever. Okay? Or if you're just practicing. Okay, so we're going to try to embellish this negative space in my leaf. So I think I'm going to try doing a little tree of life thing. We shall see how this works because I haven't done one of these ever. Okay, so I have 4 pieces of 26 gauge soft sterling here, and I pre-cut them to 9 inches. And different people have different ways of doing their tree of life, and that would be just like the thin gauge wire coming and branching like this, and then I'm going to just terminate it on 1/2. So it'll go like the tree will come across the leaf like this. So let's see how that will look. And if I run out of time, you can see my finished project later on our Facebook page because I don't know how long this is going to take. So I'm starting with a little mix of beads here. This is just a mix of freshwater pearls and gemstones. Okay, so I picked 26 gauge wire because I'm pretty sure that will fit through all the holes of these beads here. They're mostly freshwater pearls. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the approximate halfway point of my wire and just start binding them one at a time around the edge of my leaf. Okay, like this. So I'm going to coil it 5 times to lock it on. Okay. So this is binding with thinner gauge wire. And you want to use soft so you can wrap it really tight around the edge, like this. Okay, so I'm going to have a bunch of these just hanging out over here. So I'm coiling it about 5 times for each piece. Like this. Okay. And maybe I'll go one a little bit higher. There we go. It's kind of cute just like this if I just ended it. I will add some beads though. Okay. The trick to binding really tightly is to pinch your work close to where you're binding it and then pulling really tightly at a perpendicular angle to this wire. Okay, so you see how I make a 90-degree angle here? And then I just pull it really hard. That's how you can make it really tight around the base wire. Okay, here we go. Well, that's kind of cool just like that. So I'm going to start by putting some beads on here, and hopefully that won't take too long. Let's see. I think maybe I'll do just a few beads per strand of wire. And I have no idea what I'm doing, so we'll just see how this turns out. See, there's so many beads to choose from. Okay, so once I have a pair done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist them together like a twist tie. This, and then I'm going to work on the second pair of wires. We're just going to kind of go free form over here. Let's see what we got. Oh, these color combinations, we have these as kits already made in the store. So we try to make it easy for you to make nice looking jewelry here. But like if I'm coming up with a color combination for a kit in the store, what I like to do is kind of think of a theme. So these particular kits have a theme of the seasons. Okay. So these are named after the season. So this one's winter, and then we also have a summer, spring, and fall. And it's kind of easy. Once you have a theme in your head, you can pick all the colors that are associated with the theme. So like when you think of winter, you think of like whites and grays and snow. Even though it doesn't snow here, we sort of know what snow looks like. So we can think of like white snow, gray skies, and then so you kind of pick the beads to go with that theme. It always helps to, when you do color combinations, to have like a picture in your mind or a word, or even if you have like a piece of fabric or an outfit that you want to inspire your piece of jewelry on, it always helps to take the colors from either something you see or something you think about. Okay. I hope that helps. But we try to make it easy because we'll have kits in the store. All right. So I'm just stringing beads on pairs of wire and then twisting the pairs together, and then we'll see how that looks. Okay. I should be paying attention to the beads that I'm stringing. Let's see. And I'm just varying the shapes and the sizes. I'm not doing it in any kind of pattern. And I'm trying not to put like really big beads right next to other really big beads because I think it'll get a little crowded. That's the only thing I'm kind of paying attention to. Otherwise, I am not really. So when you twist like a twist tie, you kind of make an X with a wire like this right at the top of the beads, and then you twist. Looking a little crowded over here. That's kind of cool. Okay, we'll go with that. I hope it looks super cute. I'm trying. How are we on time, I wonder? Well, I'm almost done, so it's okay. Okay. I think this will be the last bead I put on here. Which one wants to go on? We'll do this one. Okay, this is my last pair. Again, you cross it like an X, and then you twist together like a twist tie. There we go. Okay. It's a little crowded. Let's see if I can make some space. And if not, it's okay. Okay, so I think I'm going to start to twist the pairs of wire together with the neighboring pairs of wires. That. And then I think I will just start twisting things together randomly. The whole idea is to kind of get it into like one trunk. What are we doing here? Okay, and then I'm gonna get the whole bunch and just like grab it and twist it. sure if that's looking very tree-like right now. I think it's okay though. Let's spread that out a little bit. Here we go. Okay. So we're getting it embellished on the inside. And then I'm going to twist it a little bit more together, like this. Okay. And then, let's see. I think I will split out the wires now and then just start to bind it to the base wire here like this. And then we'll be done. I'm going to spread it out artistically. Okay. And the thing about binding and this kind of wire working is that the wire gets stiff after enough twisting. So then you can start to use your pliers for leverage if you want to pull tighter. Like this. Okay, and once you trim the wire away, you can use your chain nose plier to sort of smooth the tip of the wire down like this, so it doesn't stick out and poke you. Okay, and then the minimum I want to coil is like 3 to 4 times around for each end of wire. Okay, you don't want to just go around once because this is 26 gauge fine silver and you don't want it to just pull out and come off, come loose. So I'm going around at least 3 times around the base of my wire. Okay. Again, you can use your pliers for leverage if you want to pull the wire even tighter. Trim, and then you can tuck the wire down with your chain nose plier, like that. So the thing about this kind of project is that it takes a long time to finish off the wires. It's the most time-consuming part. There we go. So I have 8 ends I want to finish off. I could probably be lazy and start winding some of these wires around the other wires. Maybe I will. Who knows? All right. Split this. Okay, and then if I think, oh, the stem part, like the trunk of my tree, looks a little too skinny, I'm going to bring some of the wires back up around there to bulk it up, because it does look a little thin. And this is another way you can end your wire. Okay, like that. And let's see, I'm going to add a bead here because I'm just going to make any kind now. And to finish off this short wire, I'm going to bring it around one of my branches like this. And that way you can make it look more than just like 8 strands of wire coming down, we can start to give the tree a little bit more shape. And this is also another way you can finish off your wires, is by wrapping the tail around a thin wire like this and then trimming it. There we go. Okay. I think I like that look, so I'm going to bring a couple more of the longer tails back up the trunk of my tree. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to bring this back up this way. And wind it around my stem here. Okay, so I'm going to cover the tools that we use one more time. So to shape my leaf, I used the 6-step wrap and tap plier to turn this loop here. And then if I had had a large wrap and tap plier, I would have used it to shape the curve at the bottom, but since I didn't have one handy, I used my nylon jaw plier, my nylon hammer, and I just bent it around there. And then we used our Lindstrom, I didn't use my round nose plier yet, chain nose plier and flat nose plier. I'm also using these two a lot when it comes to finishing off the thin wires here. I have a flush cutter. This is a Lindstrom flush cutter that cuts up to 16 gauge wire, which is what we were using. Okay, so small wrap and tap, 6-step wrap and tap, I mean. Chain and flat nose pliers, wire cutters, and then we used our bench block with our metal hammers, big and small. This is my Frets Maker's baby chasing hammer, which I love. And the bigger chasing hammer that I started with first. I also used the ball side to do some texturing on the metal. Okay. And then I used my nylon hammer to harden my shape without flattening my wire. I think I'm going to add one more bead here on this side. Let's add a couple beads because I love beads. Here we go. Okay, and again, I'm going to bring it back into the branches here, and I'm going to end the little tail around one of the wires that were strung across earlier. Like that. Okay, so it fills it out just a little. And you can think that when you are winding like fine wire like this around another very thin piece of wire, you only need to do it a couple of times because that's almost like tying a knot with the wire itself. So if you wind it around just like 2 to 3 times around one of the branch wires, that's fine. You want to bind it around the thicker wire more times to have it more secure, because there is more of a chance that it can, you know, get knocked loose and start to unwind. Okay, so we're finishing off our wires one at a time, like that. And if you want to give a little bit shape to this trunk part here, you can sort of wiggle it back and forth. There we go. Okay, and then I'm just going to finish off these wires and then we're done. Okay, let's bring this around here. One thing you have to watch out for when you are pulling the thin wire with the pliers is you can accidentally snap it if you pull too hard. So try not to do that. Okay. So I'm bringing the wire up. And I think I'm just going to end this one around this wire here. So you can use your pliers as extensions of your fingers to get into tight spots. Just trim that. And the trick is to have all of your wire ends tucked down nicely so they don't snag on anything. Okay. Okay. I have just 2 more wires to get rid of. Yay. This one I'm just going to trim flush against the base wire. And this last one I'm going to just bring up here and wind it around. Like so. Oh, thank you, Melanie. Okay. So if you don't know what to do with your wire, you just keep winding it. And then we're going to end around something skinny. And then we'll be done. I'm almost there. Thanks for watching today. I'm so glad you guys were able to join us live for my first ever Tree of Life attempt in my leaf component. This is kind of fun. I think all of you should try this. Okay, so I did use 16 gauge for my frame and 26 gauge soft wire for the tree portion. And then the beads I used are freshwater pearls and other assorted gemstones. Okay, I think I finished ending all my wires here. So I think that came out pretty cool. If you want to turn this into a pendant, we can just attach a bail at the top or a jump ring, and then you can string it on a piece of chain and wear it right away. Here we go. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to move over to my other screen. Hold on. Okay, I'm glad that sort of worked out. I didn't even have a starting vision for this. I just kind of had an idea of the technique I wanted to try. I had no idea what it was going to look like, but it ended up looking like this. So this is an embellished leaf component. started by making our leaf with 16 gauge wire, and then I sort of put all kinds of goodies on here, and it's sort of a tree of life kind of effect. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, I did it live. You can do it too. This is heavier gauge wire, so it takes a little bit of practice. Takes a bit of tools. You do need your bench block, your hammers, your pliers, and your 16 gauge flush cutter. But it's a really fun technique to try, especially just making the leaf component to start with. All this jazz of embellishing and stuff, you don't have to do that, but you can, and it wasn't very hard as long as you do it systematically. I'm so glad you came and you joined us today. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, because then you can hit the little bell next to the subscribe button, and then you'll be notified when we come on live. We'll be trying to do that a bit more often now, but we really appreciate you joining us today. So I hope you'll all give this a go, at least one part of it, if not the other. And we hope you will live, love, and create with us some more. So we'll see you again next time. Okay? Thank you. Aloha.